It is 5 o'clock on the West Coast here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen and we're going to kick off our meetup for today. So let me just get my my stuff all back to where I want to see it here. So here we go. Welcome everyone to the Thursday, April 4th edition for 2024 of the Vancouver Power BI and Modern Excel User Group Meetup. My name is Ken Pulse, and I'll be the host for this evening as per usual. And I need to apparently click my screen to get my mouse to where it belongs. So today we've got my friend Chris is here, and he's going to be talking about Excel add-ins. And I'm not going to go too much deeper into what Chris is doing here because, well, I'm going to let him do that in about 5 minutes. So before we start, as always, I want to say a big thanks to all the sponsors that make this happen. SkillWave is the training company that I run myself and Matt Allington. This is where we teach you how to use Power Query and DAX to do amazing things with Excel and Power BI. If you're looking for excellent training in that in a hands-on area, you should definitely check us out. Excel Guru is the parent company of SkillWave and also the distributor of Monkey Tools, developer and distributor of Monkey Tools, which is my add-in to help you build better data models faster and generally do more cool things with Excel in a more efficient manner. Our next meetups that we have coming up in a couple of weeks, we have our very own Joseph Yates is going to be presenting on using Python in Excel with the fabulous title of Slide into Data. So looking forward to that one. And then in a month's time, we've got Tom Hinkle is going to be joining us, and he is going to be teaching us how to build Minesweeper in Excel using ChatGPT. So that's a bit of a different one. I'm looking forward to seeing how he approaches that. So the registrations are open for both of these. Don't forget to sign up if you can join us. Just a quick note, speaking of add-ins today, to let you know what's new in Monkey Tools. Yesterday, I released an update to Monkey Tools, version 1.0.8859. And hold on one second, there we go. In the newest update of Monkey Tools, we have a new feature here for pro users. I'm sure that anybody who has built a table in Power Query or built a table in Excel and then pulled it into Power Query and then renamed that table has found that it breaks your Power Query. With Monkey Tools Pro, as of yesterday's update, that no longer happens. We actually go, when you rename a table, we scan through all your Power Queries and we update them right away. So renaming tables no longer breaks your Power Queries if you are using Monkey Tools Pro. This is not available to free users. This is a pro feature. You can also disable this via the Options Monkey. Why you would want to, I don't know, but you can do it if you need to for any reason. We've also released a brand new purchase option for Monkey Tools as well. I have had multiple requests over the last 4 years. I can't believe I've actually had Monkey Tools out for 4 years now, but I've had multiple requests over the last 4 years to say, can you give me a non-subscription option to purchase Monkey Tools? And I am pleased to let you know that you can now actually buy a lifetime pro license for Monkey Tools. If you're looking for it, you can find it at monkeytools.ca as one of the purchase options. And of course, as always, there's a variety of bug fixes that come for all free trial and pro users that we've been pushing on a regular basis. So you'll find more of those packaged in the most recent update as well. Actually, funny enough, the most recent update of bug fixes on this one was actually reported by a user who was using the free version of Monkey Tools, who actually emailed me back afterwards and said, like, thanks for making this bug fix. This is amazing. I can't believe that you provide this many free features into the software. So it's kind of a nice little acknowledgement there. But there you go. So definitely check out Monkey Tools if you haven't already. If you are looking to upskill and learn more about Excel, we have an Excel Fundamentals Bootcamp, which is targeted at people who are new to Excel or are trying to fill in knowledge gaps they have along the way. So we look at a variety of things like formulas and pivot tables and data visualization, introduction to Power Query. This is a coached course with over 30 hours of training, plus up to 46 hours of Ask Ken sessions, which are office hours where you can ask me anything. If you're interested in that for you or someone on your team or even your entire team, you can definitely check us out here. If you already feel that you know a good set of pivot tables and you want to take your self-service business intelligence knowledge to the next level, you should definitely check out our Self-Service BI Academy. There is over 40 hours of provided curriculum inside this course, plus about another 46 of live Ask Ken sessions held during the year. You get access to Monkey Tools, you get access to my books, my recipes, you get access to everything that basically that I do here. So if you're interested in really helping me take your skills to the next level, you should definitely check this course out. You will not regret it. This meetup, along with every meetup, is recorded and will be hosted on the Skillwave YouTube channel. And I'm just looking at the top right of my screen, making sure that that recording is actually running, and it definitely is. That makes me happy because I missed a recording on something the other day. But I will post this, and once it is posted, I will post in the meetup site so that everybody that has RSVP'd will get a notification of when it's ready. Just a couple little quick things as well to focus on. We provide a bunch of Monkey Shorts video, less than 3 minutes of technical content end to end. Last week's episode, Keeping Organized with Folders and Power Query. This week's is to help me out, as I've just had my eyes checked for zooming in the DAX formula window. So some really cool little tips here to help you up your game. And there's a full playlist of these that you can subscribe to on our Skillwave YouTube channel as well. The last thing I'm going to say before I hand this over to Chris is if you would like to get involved and come and speak to the Vancouver Power BI and Modern Excel user group on Excel, on Power BI, on anything that ties into those via the Power Platform, we'd love to have you. Just fill out the little survey on the bottom of this, and the links for these are already posted in the slide deck on the Meetup site. We'll get in touch with you and get you on our stage. We'd love to have you. We're always looking for new presenters to share the new and cool things that they're doing with Excel and Power BI. And on that note, I believe that, oh, thank you, Aurora. I'm glad that you love the Monkey Shorts videos. That's fantastic. On that note, I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn it over to my friend Chris, who's going to be talking about add-ins in Excel. So, Chris, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, Ken.
Awesome. I can see your screen. We're good to go. Hear you loud and clear. You bet.
Perfect.
It's up to you, man.
All right. So again, thanks, Ken, for inviting me on. I'm very passionate about this topic, and you'll probably see why as we move through this. But what I'm kind of aiming to do with this presentation is hopefully provide some inspiration on what VBA can do in an add-in setting. So we'll kind of go through and hit some key or unique features that I've come up with through add-ins, and I'll pause through each add-in section and let you guys ask some questions if you have any concerning them, and we'll just kind of work our way through some of these add-ins I've put together here. All right. Before that, if you're not aware of who I am, I currently work in the corporate world. I've spent most of my career in finance. I've just recently switched roles and moved into more of a commercial strategy role, which has been neat transition this year. But I've worked in manufacturing, in fintech companies. And early on in my career, I kind of realized something that going through college, a lot of the focus in Office was mostly Word, with a little bit of PowerPoint and Excel was kind of very, very low on the totem pole. And when I got to working, it was a complete opposite. And I was kind of left kind of struggling on how to kind of do advanced Excel stuff, and my peers and my colleagues weren't much help. There's typically one person in the office that's an expert, and then everyone kind of else picks up things here or there, or kind of sticks with what they're comfortable with. And I kind of realized that early on, and got really curious and spent a lot of time just searching and thinking up of things to do. And it really pivoted me to becoming that go-to person within my company early on. And I eventually kind of spun that knowledge into a website called TheSpreadsheetGuru.com that I launched back in 2015. And I started kind of documenting the things I'd figured out. I'd go with questions on forums and try to solve things. And then if it wasn't something that was really easy to search through Google, I would document that. And a lot of it had to do with VBA and making macros. And a couple years later, Microsoft ended up recognizing me with their Excel MVP award, and I've been awarded that luckily ever since. I also started an Excel newsletter, and there's currently 25,000 subscribers where I send tips and try to keep everyone up to date on all the new features that are coming out. And along the way, I've developed 8 Excel add-ins, 1 PowerPoint add-in, a handful of templates, and you've even delved into designing Excel merch. So it's all available on my website. But all that was kind of inspired by challenges I had during my day job, and how I was able to develop ways to automate and make my life easier. I've also put together a course called My First Add-in that helps folks take their macros and kind of link them into the Ribbon UI. So that's another offering I've had out there. And I'm also posting a lot on LinkedIn. So if you're interested in kind of staying in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn pretty frequently. So pivoting to the topic at hand, Excel add-ins from the Spreadsheet Guru. So as I mentioned, I have 8 add-ins that I sell to companies across the world, some more popular than others, and I admittedly probably don't market these the greatest, since this is kind of a hobby I've worked through over the years at night. But I thought I'd highlight some of these and kind of talk through some of these features that I've worked on, kind of the inspiration for why I came up with that add-in, and kind of just give you a preview of some things that you can do when you add VBA into the mix of Excel. So we're going to kick it off with the first add-in I built, and it was a very simple add-in called Sidekick. And being in finance FP&A, most of my roles in my career involved getting data from others across the company, consolidating that data, and presenting that data to leadership. And you'll see a lot of inspiration in some of these add-ins have to do with making consolidation easier. So what this really solved for me was I'd get numbers and data from folks, and a lot of times the numbers would be in millions or thousands, or a plethora of different formats. And this allowed me to kind of apply quick math to that data. So if I needed to divide all the numbers by 1,000 or 1,000,000 to get it aligned with my other data, this allowed me to do that. So it's a really simple, straightforward add-in where you can see in the user form, you can divide by a value, multiply, add, subtract, and then there's some other checkboxes off to the side where you can flip the signs of your selected data. You can zero out your selection. You can hard code the numbers, or you can apply that same division or multiplication to formulas as well. And a couple of just design features that I was excited to figure it out was, you'll notice there's a little pin button up in the left-hand corner, and I'll kind of demo how that works. But that was something I had incorporated, so where I could keep that user form floating by clicking the pin and kind of working in Excel and doing this math on the side. Another thing that I actually have an article on is I created hover buttons, and I kind of created a structure to make the user form look more like it's native to Excel. And you'll see in the picture off to the right that my original design for Sidekick kind of had some color, and it had kind of some more flat UI design to it. And I was looking at Microsoft's user forms, and I tried to combine the desktop user form with what they were doing with Excel Online, and create something that looked very similar, so that my add-in UI didn't really stick out as much, and felt more native to Excel while you're looking at it. So that completely redesigned how that user form looked and functioned. And I've got a couple articles. If you Google how to create a user form in Excel that looks modern, I've got some documentation on the settings and the sizes and the formats that I use to kind of mimic that. And also, if you Google how to create hover buttons in user forms, you should see my article near the top as well. That kind of shows you how I'm able to get that effect in the user form. So with that, let me just quickly show what Sidekick does. So I decided, since it's a single button, I found a home for it in the formulas tab, and it's right here nested under the calculations group. A nice thing about your add-ins too is you can add them to your quick access toolbar very easily as well. So a lot of my favorite add-ins, and usually Sidekick at my day job, I have sitting in my quick access toolbar, so I can get to it real easily. But it's real simple. You can make a selection of a range. You can click Sidekick. That pin action, you can see, you can pin that user form. You'll see the hover on any of the buttons kind of highlights that in blue. And let's just say I wanted to divide this selection by 1,000. I have 1,000 already entered in there. I click calculate, and you see that math was instantly applied. I didn't have to do any formulas or anything like that. And it's just a quick and dirty tool to do math on your data. Now, if I wanted to kind of go back and switch the signs for whatever reason, I can check that box and switch the signs very easily. And you'll see if I unpin and click calculate, it disappears. What's also nice about Sidekick is it will ignore formulas by default. So typically a lot of income statements have maybe some hard-coded data and then formulas within it for subtotaling. What you can do here is you don't have to necessarily select just the hard-coded data. You can select the whole thing and apply that math, and it just does that hard-coded data, so it doesn't mess up your formulas there. Now, kind of going back to a real-world example, in my consolidation life, let's just say each state's sales data was from a different person, and they sent data that I asked for to be in millions, and some listened and some didn't. And obviously this, in the real world, this is probably thousands of data points that I'd have to flip and get aligned here. But this is something I could go through real quick and manipulate that data to get it down into the millions. And in this case, I've got formulas in here. I wanted to just show what it did with what it does with formulas. So if I hit include formulas in my calculation, you'll see it goes through and wraps that formula with parentheses and then does the math after it. So a nice little user form, very simple to just be my sidekick as I'm working through data. I'll pause real quick to see if there's any questions. I'm sorry, I'm not monitoring chat, so I don't know if anyone
Yeah, you've
posed
got
any
one, Chris.
questions. Yep.
You've got one question from Randy asked, can you undo a calculation?
So that is that's the fun thing with VBA is in Excel you can't undo it. Now I can do the reverse of the math. That's why I have the multiplication and the addition subtraction. So you would have to kind of do the reverse of the math you applied in this case, because VBA is not tracked in the history of Excel. So that's, you'll see in a couple of other features that I have in other add-ins that are a little bit more destructive. I'll show you how I kind of warn users and get around some of that stuff.
All right, you got one more question too. This is a good sign, man. Where do you download this add-in?
You go to my website, and
you'll provide a link at the end of this, at the end of the session.
Yeah, I can provide a link. I will say, so all my add-ins except Sidekick, because I was honestly lazy with Sidekick, have a free 2-week trial. And I will say, wink wink, if you sign up for my newsletter, there is a there are nice bonuses that might reduce pricing for you. And I always recommend, if there's an add-in that you like, try to have your company pay for it. Companies have budgets to pay for stuff like this, and they're willing to fund it. So use it if you work for a company that can kind of pay a little money to take it off your plate.
There you go. I think that's it for questions right now.
Right.
Aurora has posted a link to your site, so in the chat,
Awesome.
So you're
awesome.
good to go there.
All right, let me go back to my slide here, and we'll work on to the next add-in here. So my next add-in, and keeping in theme with consolidation. This was a big one for me. So as I mentioned, I was in charge of getting data, combining it, and presenting it. And I found myself doing a lot of PowerPoint work where I'd have to take last month's PowerPoints, go through, delete charts, delete tables, go into my Excel file, repaste them, resize them. Everyone wants it perfectly aligned, perfectly sized on all the slides. And it was a time suck. So I came up with this idea of, is there a way I can use VBA to kind of automate doing all this copy pasting, deleting, resizing stuff I'm having to do? And I came up with a pretty neat add-in. And I'll show how it works, but essentially it gives you a table that you can map everything you want to copy and paste into a PowerPoint presentation. And some challenges with this, if you've ever worked with VBA and copying and pasting, it is very buggy. And I've had to work on the logic to account for all the times it will randomly error out. One time you run the code and the next time it doesn't. So that was a very, very big challenge on trying to work around getting it to, or minimizing it from airing out while doing this. But we'll jump into Excel and I can show you how this works in action here. So the kind of the workflow for this, and this is very simplistic setup. So I just have a tab for every state in the US. We got 50 tabs, and I just have a chart and table here. And what you essentially do is you insert this E to P tab. So you'd click this E to P button, it would insert this tab. This would all be blank. And what E to P does is it goes through your spreadsheet and creates a drop-down list of every chart and named range in your spreadsheet. And this is one of the things, depending on how many slides you're wanting to produce. It takes some upfront effort, so you definitely want something that's being repeated every month. But once you get it set up, it creates your presentation in seconds. So I like to, when I'm setting this up, actually go in and change the names of the objects so they're easier to select and you're not just living with the default Excel name. But there's nomenclature in here with the exclamation points and the double colons to indicate whether it's a chart or a named range in your spreadsheet. And what it does is it kind of serves as a mapping table. So I give my object or the image that I'm pasting in a name. I tell it what slide I want to put it on. I give it coordinates on where on the slide I want to paste it. So using the left and top values, and I'll show you how I get this information a little bit later on. And then the size that I want it. And then I've gone through and given users options on a variety of different paste types that you can use, all kind of the normal paste types that would be available to you manually. For charts, I always recommend for the best quality using the PNG format for pasting. Enhanced meta file for charts has some grain to it, I've found. And then if you're pasting in tables, using enhanced meta file seems to be the best graphical result there. And in my world, I liked doing pictures for all my presentations because I wanted very limited ability for my leaders to change anything on the final presentation. But if you wanted something that was more interactive, you do have the default paste in there that kind of links it up to your presentation as well. And then I'll get into why this is maybe a little bit more important later on, but you can flag rows on if you want it to export or not. So in this case, I'm gonna export everything, and what I'm gonna do here is I will hit the export button. We'll see if this will generate. I'll cross my fingers and hopefully it doesn't bug out. But you've got a couple options. You can create a brand new PowerPoint, which is what we'll do. If you have the PowerPoint already open, you can select active presentation. Or if you have it saved out somewhere, you can put the file path in here, and it will open it for you. So if you uncheck create, you can hit the folder button and find it, and it remembers it once you export the first time, so that file path can stay stored in the spreadsheet for future use. But we'll go ahead and create a new PowerPoint. I knew that was gonna happen. Let me try one more time. It's giving me this weird. Oh, I know why. It's because I'm presenting in PowerPoint. Let me stop sharing there. All right, one more time. There we go. All right, so it's going through and doing all that copy. It's giving you a status on what slide it's currently working on, and then gives you an overall progress percentage on how it's worked through the table. It's being a little slower than usual. It might be because I'm on Teams, but definitely faster than doing it manually. And there we go. So we created 50 slides from scratch in 36 seconds. So just to prove it worked, we'll go here, and we've got that all nice and paste it in there. Now that I have this created, I did want to kind of show how the heck do you get these coordinates and the height and the width on there. So what you can do is, let's say I'm setting this up for the first time and I'm trying to replicate this. So there's the couple things I want to do. So first, I want to make sure my name for this object matches what I'm calling it here. Since I already kind of created this through E2P, it's going to be the right name. But if I go to the selection pane here, I can see this is called my chart and this is called my data. And that's how the E2P code kind of knows how to delete the old image. It will go through the slide and say, well, I'm creating my data on slide 2. I'm going to search for my data on slide 2 first and delete it if it exists, and then I'll pop in the new one. So that's where we're naming kind of ties in between your PowerPoint slide and what's in this Excel table here. Now, if I wanted to find, let's just say I wanted the chart to look like here, and I wanted it to be up here, right? So I have this selected. I can go into this dimension finder. Oh. Maybe. There we go. I don't know why I did that the first time. And then it's going to give me the left, top, height, width. It's also going to show the name of that object and the slide it's on. So I can select which ones I want, and if I hit the plus button, it will add that based on the row I have selected. And that kind of gives you the coordinates. And if you have the same format on a bunch of slides, you can just copy it down and use the power of Excel to do that. So that prevents you from having to do VBA off to the side and figure out what those coordinates and sizes are for the objects you're trying to paste into PowerPoint. Where this can get really fun, and I've actually done some consulting with E2P for companies that want to do pitch decks where they have models and they'll have charts throughout them, and they want to have that all, it's all standardized, but they want to have that all looking nice and pretty, and they want dynamic titles based on maybe the company name or something like that. That's where it can get really fun. And I've got a very crude example, but in this version, I have some things. So I have a big text box with a title here, and I've got quarter options here. So I can create a PowerPoint presentation based on the quarter I want to report out on. So I can go through here and say I want to do the Q3. I've got now logic in this export column to where it's only going to flag yes for the months that are in Q3. So you can do that to kind of build this out even further and have more dynamic options and really produce variations of a presentation if needed. So this is where it can kind of get neat, and you can kind of get creative on how you're building out these presentations. So I'll stop there and take any questions on this one.
The only question on this one for you, Chris, is instead of PowerPoint, have you thought about exporting to Power BI?
No, I haven't. Mostly because I'm not as familiar with Power BI capabilities. I'm actually in my my current role. I'm interacting with that more. So maybe in the future. What I have done though, I did do a version of this to Word. So I had a company that did audits of national parks, and they had a big Excel model that had data on numbers of visits and acreage and all this other stuff. And they wanted to be able to automate generating these 100-page reports in Word, and putting in these charts and tables based on the park they were working on. And the interesting, I guess, change with that one and that project is there's bookmarks in Word, and I had to use that throughout the report and set bookmarks to certain places where the chart needed to be inserted or the table needed to be inserted. But I don't know who asked that question. I'm curious what that would essentially look like. Maybe are you talking?
I'll be honest, I am too. So Stephen, if you have more thoughts on exactly what you want to see there, Aurora's also thrown in a secondary comment on this that says it's the other way around. In Power BI, you connect the Excel data and then select your chart as desired. And I tend to agree with that, but I wonder if there is an additional sort of automation component that you're looking there for any specific reason. So if you have more thoughts on that, be interesting to see them in the chat for sure.
Yeah, maybe it was Power BI to PowerPoint.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. But no, I don't think so. It says instead of to PowerPoint, how about to Power BI? So I'm thinking Excel to Power BI. But I mean, there's the option if you're working with an Excel model to go to Power BI and say import from Excel, and it'll bring the entire model over, and then you start building your charts, and away you go. So, like I say, Stephen, if you got more thoughts on it, throw them into the chat, and we can explore those a little bit more.
Yeah, it'd be a project not for me. That would kind of go past my skill set that I've accumulated over the years. But that is interesting.
All right, I think that's it for right now. So
all right, great. I'll get back to sharing the PowerPoint now. I found out that you can't be presenting and use E2P at the same time. It's good to know. All right, so the next one, this is actually my most popular add-in. It's called Tickmark, and it was really meant to do. It was a culmination of a couple things. So one, I was always facing a struggle with getting people's Excel spreadsheets that maybe they had left or transitioned to a new role, and understanding how their models worked and were structured. And there's also an element that I ultimately combined into this add-in where I like to mark up spreadsheets and document how to use spreadsheets. A lot of my career has been fixing things or developing solutions and then pivoting to the next thing and transitioning it off to someone. And I found that the more documentation and hints along the way throughout the spreadsheet, the easier that works. So I came up with this idea to make this what I kind of market as like an auditing, accounting type add-in, but I do neither, and I use this add-in every day to kind of fulfill some of those needs and some really unique things I haven't really seen too much in the add-in world. This add-in actually has some preset tick marks or little icons that you can insert into your spreadsheet. But it also gives you the ability to create your own, and you can actually make your own buttons on the ribbon. So that was something that was really fun to work through and develop. I also did some work with hyperlinking shapes, and I'll show you how that works. If you think of like a standard tick mark, a lot of accountants and auditors use those to navigate from one area of the spreadsheet to the other. And adding that hyperlink element to where you can just click that tick mark and it takes you to where the other end of it is really helpful. And then I've thrown in a bunch of other buttons in here, but one that I liked or thought was kind of creative was drawing an arrow based on your selection or how you select something. So I'll kind of demo that along with some other buttons on this add-in here. So let me go back to my okay. So the first thing I want to demonstrate is maybe there we go. Okay. First thing I want to demonstrate is getting a spreadsheet and trying to understand what's going on here. So a lot of Excel users I've found don't like to format things or color code things. So sometimes we just get spreadsheets where it's just numbers on a page. You don't know what's going on, and you're kind of left scratching your head on what you do, where the data is coming from. So I developed something I called the data organizer, and what it does is it color codes hard-coded numbers. It color codes formulas linked to outside sheets, and then it also can catch things that I call plugs, which is when you have a formula and you put some addition, subtraction at the end of it to kind of true up a number. So right off the bat, I could get a spreadsheet and I can come in here and click this data organizer. And going back to the undo, so you can't undo this once it's done. So I had some customer feedback that said, hey, it'd be nice if I had the option to copy the sheet and then apply the format so that I'm not destructive to the original one. So I do my best to warn, hey, you can't undo this once you do it, and all it's doing is formatting, so it's not life or death here. But you can select if you want to do it to this sheet, or if you want to copy this sheet and then do that formatting. So we'll just copy that sheet, and if it finds a plug, it's going to give you a little warning saying, hey, we found an instance where there was a plug in the formula, we called it out. So I'll hit OK. And right now you can see there's some formatting applied. And you might be wondering, well, it's nice there's colors here, but what do the colors mean? And what's neat about this in the settings and kind of a trademark I've done with all my add-ins is I always keep the settings in the corner buttons here. Is you can actually determine what those colors are. So in my settings for the data organizer, just regular numbers are going to be black. If there's formulas, they're going to be blue. If they're off sheet, formulas are going to be yellow. And if they're plugged, it's going to be a red fill color. And to complement that, I also have a legend you can insert either vertically or horizontally that kind of gives you what those colors are for documentation purposes. But you can see here, it's interesting, right? Because we've got a bunch of hard-coded numbers. For some reason, I've got a formula right here, right? And it didn't call it a plug necessarily because it's just numbers doing math. This was referencing a cell, and it was plus 50. It would highlight it red. But that might be something you'd want to look at or understand. You've got formulas down here for costs, so you can see there's some math here. For whatever reason, this section is linking out externally, so that might be something to investigate. And then down here, someone added a +5 to the sum. So it's a quick way to just kind of get your footing on what's going on with the data of something you might not be familiar with. Now I've also isolated the plug finding feature to its own button, and this is something that I like to run a lot, especially if you make presentations. And I've had leaders in the past that have to have things visually foot. and they don't like to have the rounding where your three numbers don't total the subtotal because of rounding. It needs to visually foot to where people will just stuff a +1 or a +0.1 or something real quick, and then they'll reuse that spreadsheet the next month and forget they had that. Or they might just have a one-time adjustment. Now obviously best practice is you'd want to have adjustments visually off to the side and kind of link to them so you prevent that, but not everyone does that. So this is something you can run real quick, and I have a couple of options to where you can just it'll look for the general definition of a plug, but you can exclude it finding -1s or +1s if you don't care about that, or the -1 is very popular with growth formulas where you do before divided by after -1. So you might have a spreadsheet has a lot of that, and you don't want that necessarily called out. Or if you want something, you have some plugs in there, but you want it like material differences in plugs, so you can search for a percentage that it was plugged to, and then just have different markers, so a dot, box, or a circle that it can go to. So you can either select a range that you want it to search, or if you just have one cell selected, it will search the entire spreadsheet here. So it's found 2. And I have a little manager here. If you happen to have a lot of them, you can kind of double click and it will take you to the cell location of where that is, and you can go investigate where that is. You've also got options to remove the markers if you don't want them anymore. You've already looked at them. And you've got that. You've got a few other options where you can hide them or unhide them as well. But that feature has saved my butt a couple times in my career, where I like to run that real quick just to make sure there isn't any noise in the spreadsheets before I send it off. Another one that was a customer idea was called the Ghost Finder, and they were wanting the ability to search for stuff that had like a white font. And that was kind of an inspiration for this. So very similar to the plug finder, but it's searching for various formats that might look hidden on the spreadsheet. So we can find ghosts here, and it will mark up where you might have had some hidden data, and you might want to look at what's going on there and why that might have been hitting. I don't personally like the whiteout cells, but I've worked with many of people who enjoy doing that. And again, you can remove them. So that was kind of the audit portion of the add-in. The other very popular portion is the ability to do these tick marks. So I had created a bunch of presets to where you can go through, and in the audit world, usually like a manager has their own color of check mark, and a staff auditor might have a different check mark, and they put the checks in the spreadsheet to say they sign off on the review. So you can simply select a cell and hit the check mark, and it puts it there for you. You can select multiple, and it will do those all there as well. This was another fun one where it is doing copy and pasting of these images or shapes. So a lot of work had to be done to make sure that doesn't bug out on a regular basis with VBA. I also have these sequential ones. So if I want to do like a letter, I can do that. I can then copy it, and maybe I want to say, hey, this goes with this for whatever reason. So that's very popular. I can select multiple cells and hit oh, that's a new. I've never seen that before. Uh-oh. Oh boy. Let me try that one more time. So this is an example of the clipboard error. And I've never seen this dialog box before, so that must be new. Hopefully it doesn't crash my. So this is a good example. So if the copy and pasting doesn't work or fails randomly, you can see my workaround is just to keep brute force trying to paste. And so it said, hey, we tried to paste this 40 times and your computer won't let you do it. And typically you have to restart Excel and it works fine afterwards. But normally you can select multiples and it will count based on how many cells you have selected. The other neat thing is you can create your own, right? So these three right here are icons that I created. Hopefully this will catch back up. I don't really want to restart Excel. Now it's really not liking me. So there it tried 213 times. So I don't want to restart, so I'm just gonna you're just gonna have to trust me that it does work. But you can essentially create your own shapes. So let's say I wanted to come in here to an icon and make this acorn as a button, right? So I can format it and size it the way I'd want it. And while I have it selected, I can go in to my tick manager and you can create up to what is it, 30 buttons. And so you effectively select one that's not taken and you can name it. You can choose if you want that name displayed or if you just want the icon to show. You can also put a description in if you want a screen tip. And it also has the ability to put that image in the ribbon itself. There's also a generic option if you're doing something that like let's just say you did like a text box or a disclaimer that you wanted to save up to the ribbon. Squeezing that down real small to a 16 by 16 pixels is not going to look very good. So you can do a generic or even none for the ribbon icon and hit create. And I'm a little worried with all the copy pasting issues I'm having to actually do that. But it was the same concept with this button and the arrow and the Africa icon, and it just puts that up there for you as well. For a setting which I've also found to be nice, I give users the ability to I think it's in, or no, I'm thinking of a different, sorry, I'm thinking of a different add-in. But so you can also, like I said with the Sidekick, you can also, if you're using a lot of these Tickmark buttons or you have favorites, you can add those to your quick access toolbar as well and have those at your fingertip too. Some other neat things real quick. I mentioned the arrow. So I came up with this concept with the arrow that if you start and drag a range and click the arrow button, it'll kind of draw it for you in that direction. So if I start here and draw it this way, I can kind of make arrows pointed, and that way I don't have to play around with changing them around real quick. We've also got features in here to make red boxes. So those are always handy. Another neat one that I find super useful, especially with models, is this scroll up button. And all it does is it goes through every tab and scrolls the page up to cell A1. And that's really handy for files before you send them off to run that and just have everything at the top. So that was a frustration of mine is things would be scrolled down in all random places. And from a presentation perspective, I didn't like receiving or sending spreadsheets that were more report-like out to folks and have all pages scrolled differently. I've also got a handful of options where you can collapse and expand groups, and you can do that with selected worksheets and entire workbooks. So if you've got a lot of grouped columns or rows throughout the spreadsheet and you want to kind of tidy that up before you send a workbook out, you can do that way. I also have it where you can group hidden rows and hidden columns. I always like having hidden columns and rows grouped instead of hidden, just so you have that visual indicator that something's hidden. So that was something where I would inherit all these models that had just rows and columns hidden, and I didn't want to track them all down, or I'd get messed up with copying because I didn't know sections were hidden. And I can just run this now, and it will kind of set that up for me all at once. So I know I'm getting close to end of my time here. Any kind of overarching questions on Tickmark? And I can maybe do a speed round of some of.
Doesn't look like it. We've got a discussion going back and forth just around the Power BI thing that was from there before, but nothing specific on Tickmark.
Okay.
So
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So real quick, since I know I just have a few more minutes, I'll share kind of my branding add-in real quick, and I did this mostly as a quick way to get my preferred formatting on the spreadsheet very quickly. So I had colors that aligned with my company branding, and I created an add-in that had kind of presets for me. And I was able to kind of take a report like this and really mark it up and format it the way I like. So what I typically like to do with headings is I'll color them. I like putting in a white divider. So I'll do something like this. And then I also have algorithms for shading the selected color. So I have a darken, a lighten, and then a two shade lighten there, to where you can real nicely kind of get a complementary color built in there for you. I also these colors also work on charts, so I can select a bar chart and continue to color those the way I want. I can lighten them as well, and kind of real quickly get those formatted the way I wanted. Also, for headings, I like having a nice underline under it, and then also putting some color on the heading. So these are actually cycling buttons. So if I click it once, it will do the fill in the white color for me. If I click it again, and then makes that font green, and if I click it a third time, it kind of puts it back to a general format. So that's another way I can kind of get around the not being able to undo things, is kind of doing a nice little cycle through different formats there. I've got a button here that can do a nice little underline based on the color of your first selected cell there. So I got a nice order that aligns with the green color. I've also got a subtotal formatting, and it also cycles through various subtotal formats. So if I click it the first time, it puts the line above. Let me just move this down. If I click it again, puts the double line. And if I click it a third time, it gives me that format. And if I click it again, it resets to back to original. I also have a color picker here, so I can select a cell and hit the color picker, and it creates this ad hoc button that I can then use just like these presets and put the color in as well. So that's pretty neat. All these presets are available in a settings manager, so you can determine the fill color, the font color, if you want to bold it, and then if you want to change the alignment within the text. You can also bring in logos. So company logos are very nice to kind of polish up a spreadsheet or a dashboard. So this add-in has the ability for you to save off a logo file, and then it can go in and pull that in. It also works on putting that logo in footer or header images if you're printing a report out and want a logo down in the footer. So that's pretty neat. And then lastly, the final add-in I wanted to cover was the numbers add-in, and this is very simple. I'm very proud that I also have the increase and decrease decimal buttons in the direction they should be, where decrease is on the left and increase is on the right. Still trying to get Microsoft to fix that. But it has a couple things. So I actually incorporated Sidekick into this add-in. So if you want to, I guess I take it back. If you want to demo Sidekick, you can actually do the number format trial, and it's embedded in there. But this lets you do and store your number formats, and it actually lets you cycle through up to 3 formats per button. So I've got a rules manager here where you can create one or edit an existing one, and basically you just paste in your number format that you want to apply on the first click, the one you want to apply on the second click, and the one you want to apply on the third click. It will validate those, and I typically do just adding decimal places for the rules, but there's other things I'll show you that are kind of neat as well. And then these are right here for you to use, and you can simply just select and click, and it applies that number format for you. And again, it cycles back to general once it hits that third rule. And this I actually have the ability to throw it out into the home page, so you can flag favorites and have those on your home tab as well. Some interesting number formats that are kind of in by default is I've got stoplights. So these are kind of neat ones I've come up with and use, where it can turn positive numbers green, 0, yellow, and then negative numbers red. If I click it twice, I've got same concept with triangles and then arrows as well. So that's a neat little number format combination. I've also got kind of bullet points. So if you want to kind of mimic having bullet points in your data for reporting perspective, I've got a preset that has that different formats there for you. And of course, for your own, like you can do as you please with these buttons. You can keep them or add to them. But that's something I use every day constantly, because I hate having to manually write out some of my preferred number formats there. So I think I went a little over. I apologize, but hopefully this was at least eye-opening on some of the stuff that Excel can do with VBA. I'm not doing anything special with any of the capabilities you saw. It's all straight VBA macro code, just packaged into a spreadsheet here. And my final slide. If you want to connect with me through the newsletter or LinkedIn or X, there's my file paths to get there. And hopefully you're able to take something away from the presentation. Appreciate it.
Chris, I just want to tell you that as somebody who writes and distributes my own add-ins, dude, you're doing all that with VBA. I'm impressed, and your ribbons look fantastic. Thanks. Well done. That is it's some really good looking stuff. I'm amazed by how many add-ins you have. I can only bring myself to maintain one. So
yeah, it's a lot to manage for sure, and it's even harder when you get feedback on good features and you're like, how do you balance trying to manage all of it with updates and everything else. So
oh yeah,
but it's been fun, and they've been out there for a while, and it's really cool to see some companies invest in them with buying them for their departments or people in other countries finding value in them. So it's been really neat ride for this non-coder. I'm just a finance guy that kind of figured out how to write macros in his spare time.
Yeah, we have a lot in common in that regard, my friend. So Stephen is asking, will there be any add-ins for Excel Online anytime soon? And so Stephen, I'm going to answer that as a general thing. There already are add-ins for Excel Online. You can build them. However, it takes a completely different coding language and a completely different store setup. So now I'm going to turn that back to you, Chris. Are you planning on doing any of these in Office JS instead of VBA?
No. It's so the frustrating thing with that is they've been working on the language for it has to be like at least 10 years, I would think, and the capabilities, like the stuff I showed you, like you just can't do, or if you try to do, I'd probably not have any hair trying to figure out how to work around it, like that E2P set of automation like that's impossible to do. There's also a distribution component to it as well, where it's a little finicky on it's not as easy as, hey, I can email you an add-in file and you can use it. So there's some of that stuff they're still trying to figure out. And I think they're really kind of pushing more to kind of the way you run Monkey Tools, where it's not a JS script and it's kind of more professional.
Well,
in its coding structure.
I don't know that I'd say that. I mean, the VB.NET or C# is sort of a, the pro dev, I guess, version, if you like, of VBA. But even at that, I mean, we're not cross-platform, right? I mean, we run on Windows desktop. So when you want to get into Office Online, you're looking at Office Scripts is sort of the VBA equivalent for the self-starter, and then getting into Office JS is the pro dev side of it. But I think the biggest issue, just for folks that are sort of interested or curious about this, is that anything that touches multiple applications, like what Chris did with E2P, where you're spinning off your PowerPoint stuff, it doesn't have that concept of allowing you to reach outside of its own Excel sandbox. So those ones get killed right off the bat. Your Tickmark stuff, you could probably do some of that along the way, but it's a whole new learning curve and a whole new language with a whole new distribution model that is tough. I mean,
but can you even put buttons in Excel Online Ribbon? Isn't that just?
I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you, because I haven't actually looked at it. I mean, in theory,
I think it's just buttons or code. Like
it could be.
You can do like you can. I know you have the ability to do a button like on the spreadsheet, and you can click it, or it's just running a script is the capability. So I don't even think you can really manipulate the Excel online ribbon
Yeah,
at this point.
in theory, you'd think that you should be able to, because it should just be using Ribbon X. But having said that, given that you can't hook a Ribbon X button to an Office script macro, I think you're probably right. It probably doesn't work. Which hopefully they'll change that in the future, because I mean that everything on the web these days seems to be driven by task panes. Actually, you know what? Hold on a second. Let me see. I thought. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look. I mean, I know Jan Carl has built an Office JS add-in that does work, I believe, in Excel Online, but I don't know what the ribbon looks like if he's just added a single button for it. I think he must have. So you must be able to get your stuff in there somehow. I just haven't looked at it myself.
Now I think about it, isn't there there's a script tab, isn't there? Maybe you can put it.
There is, yeah. Yeah, possibly. I'm just trying to figure out if I can actually get to one of these things here and actually take a look real quick before we end off.
Maybe you can put it. I think you can put it here, right, in the automate.
Yeah, but I thought that Jan Carl and his actually had put it on a different tab, because again, I mean the Ribbon X code. The Ribbon X code should allow you to put things where you want. So let me just go and find out real quick here. So let's go and find out. We'll grab name manager. There it is. Add, continue. Okay, cool. So here, I'm tell you what, I'm just going to share my screen real quick here. And we can see on this one. So just as an answer to that question, this is Jan Carl's name manager that I'm showing right here. So this is Excel Online. So he actually has put it on there. So yeah, you can customize the Ribbon X framework. All I know with this one here is that it opens up a task pane on the side. I don't know whether or not you can link that to individual Office script macros. I haven't looked that far into it, but I'll have to call you and Carl back for another presentation on how to actually make my basic add-in in these things. But there's a lot that goes to it, obviously, in order to set these things up. So different frameworks, that's the challenge, right? So, and not to say that it can't be done. It's just the developers got to learn the entire language and framework and distribution models and all the rest of it. So for those of us that are heavily invested into a specific platform, we got to decide whether it's not worth making that jump. So, but yeah. So I'm just looking through the chat here, and somebody said Monkey Tools plus Sidekick makes Monkey Kick, which is kind of funny. Yeah, just general comments, Chris, on great work and nice looking stuff. Yeah, so I would encourage people. I don't know if you want to share your screen again, just real quick here for how to get to you. But I definitely encourage people to go and check out Chris's fine work in this area. If you saw stuff that looks like it's going to enhance your productivity, see if you can get your employer to help pay the bill on those things. And Chris, it's a fine example of a bunch more stuff that we can do to enhance Excel. And I appreciate you coming and showing us. That's fantastic.
No problem.
Awesome. All right. Well, I don't know if there's any other questions here. It's kind of the last chance to throw them into the chat. As we're sort of waiting for those, I'll just let everybody know that I will be producing this and publishing it on the Skillwave YouTube channel. So if you want to go back and take a look at it in a little bit more detail a little bit later, I should hopefully have that video up hopefully by the end of tomorrow, but by the end of Monday latest. And if you are looking for it, we will post in the Meetup site, so you'll get an email notification when it's ready that you can go and check it out. And I don't see any other questions coming in, so I think we'll wrap it up for the day. Thanks again for coming and doing this, Chris. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll hopefully have you back in future to do some other stuff as well. So until next time.
Thanks.
Have a good one, folks. All right.
Cheers.